assertion that it is a contradiction to provide further information or to not provide information that was available to you, again, all the way back nearly 10 years ago now, we addressed these issues and addressed the fact that an author has the right to include what information they want to include in the story. And again, there is decisions made on what audience you're speaking to, how you want to be clear. I mean, the idea that we are supposed to use modern standards of journalistic accuracy, and I went, I'm sorry, do forgive the anachronism there. Standards of journalistic accuracy from about 60 years ago, and apply to these texts would be a very much an anachronism. But what was the other issue here? I remember years and years and years and years ago. I mean, back when. Before internet, when some of us are old enough to remember bulletin board systems, BBS systems, where you could communicate electronically. It just would take sometimes 3 or 4 days for your message to make the rounds and be responded to by somebody else. But those are actually better days, to be honest with you, because the speed at which things happen now. Speed generally makes people stupid. And so back in the BBS days, you actually had time to go, let me think about that. And actually thinking about it helped. Anyway, I remember a extended discussion with a local atheist on the second issue that is raised just by these verses that we looked at right here. And that is, what time does this take place? And it's such to me, it seems like such a simple thing and such a small thing, but especially when you get the resurrection, because the Christian faith is so focused upon it, then we shouldn't be overly surprised that the opponents of the Christian faith are likewise focused upon the same thing. And that is, in Matthew, we have toward the dawn of the first day of the week. Toward the dawn. Now, we already mentioned this before, but especially in the ancient world, but even today, the method of keeping time and temporal language was not nearly as exact as some of the things we can do today. I mean, you can pick up your phone. And one of my favorite weather apps provides you with the temperature throughout the day and stuff, and it also throws in the middle sunrise. So sunrise. I don't know how in the world I got to Atlanta. Okay, there we go. Sunset tonight's at 6:11. And sunrise tomorrow morning is at 7:12. Okay. So we have now, but I learned a long time ago. Okay, sunrise is at 7:12, but that does not mean that the sun's rays will actually be hitting you at 7:12. Especially when I ride my bike in the summer. I really appreciate the fact that there's about an 8 or 9 minute difference before you actually start getting baked. I got 8 or 9 more minutes before, smoke starts rising from the cactus and stuff like that. And because that may be sunrise, but there's mountains over there. And sometimes if you're riding toward the mountains, I remember once it was just something fun to do. I was riding along the canal, and you get over toward, Squaw Peak and stuff like that, and you can sort of try to keep the sun behind you, this racing the shadow basically to try to keep from getting hit by the sun a little bit longer. So there are variations, but you also know, okay, what did I say, 7:12 tomorrow morning? Well, that means if I were to plan on a run in the morning, and I plan on getting done by 10 after 7, Depending on how long the run is, I'm probably not going to take a light, because we know that dawn is a specific point in time, but it's plenty bright to see well before that. And then there's this thing called civil twilight, and there's all this stuff you can look up on some of the websites as to, when civil twilight starts and what is twilight and sunrise, and cloud cover determines, how much light you're going to, there's all sorts of stuff like this. And so, we have all the astronomical stuff that we can throw in there, which they did not have nearly as much of as we do back then. It was just really a functional thing as to, if you're talking about dawn, you're talking about exactly when you can see the sun. Well, that's going to differ even in the same city, depending on whether there are mountains around or stuff like that. Are you talking about when it's bright enough not to fall off a cliff because you can't see the thing coming? What is it? And so there is ambiguity, necessary ambiguity in the language. And so toward the dawn, Mark has very early on the first day of the week, they went to the tomb when the sun had risen. Well, does that mean? Well, I'll give you another consideration here in a moment. Luke, at early dawn, but John, while it was still dark. Can't put those together. Well, a few things. You'll notice that there is the taking of spices. When you have multiple people, they're probably going to be getting together at some point in time to where they're going to meet up. We'll meet up at such and such a corner, or we'll meet up at so-and-so's house, or I'll bring the bandages, you bring the spices. Okay. And they're not taking public transportation. They're walking. And so there is going to be a time period involved. Are they referring to when they started? When they arrived? Are they referring to events during their journey? Does the sun rise on the way? Has it just arisen when they get there? Was it dark when they started? All of this